So now we're going to do the tie flying part of this, James?
Yeah.
It's my first time.
This is a vise that holds the hook, and we're going to tie a caddisfly. And the thread is held in this tool called a bobbin. And
We're going to tie a caddisfly?
It's a few basic, caddisfly, yeah.
Caddis, I think?
Yeah, it's a popular fly in local streams. And so let's get the materials out. So you tie the thread on, and then...
what type of thread do you use for this? It looks awful shiny.
They make, waxed thread. It holds onto the hook better.
Waxed thread.
Yeah.
So it has a waxed surface.
Yeah, and...
so this little vise holds everything so your hands are free?
Right, and this is called dubbing. It's just under fur from an animal, and it makes the little body of the fly.
So around the thread.
You wrap that onto the thread, right? There's all kinds of materials you can buy. There's shops that sell these kind of
fishing
things.
stores.
Different animals, you use feathers and fur. Deer hair is popular.
For what?
For this fly, we're going to use deer hair.
That's some kind of a hen?
Yeah, this is from a rooster neck. It's all prepared and nice and clean. There's no... So you pick a feather out.
Had to be pretty dexterous. I figured that anyhow, that you had a...
Yeah, it promotes that kind of thing. I've been doing this for... I started fly tying before...
you were born.
before I started fly fishing.
Oh, really? You were interested in making these little beautiful things?
Yeah, it's a good winter activity.
I'd say. Now I know why all the fly tyers in Easton like to talk to me, because they know I have a lot of these threads. So that's a little, you're putting...
Yeah, a little body, and then you wrap this hackle around the body like this. There's all kinds of tools,
the hackle feather from the...
Right. There's little tools that hold the hackle while you're wrapping it on, because it's difficult to hold these things sometimes.
Boy, you did that very expertly. Like, you've done that a lot.
Yeah, I've done a lot of these things.
So you end up with a little fuzz, a little...
Yeah, a little fuzz. This is a dry fly. There's different types of flies. Dry flies float on the surface. They imitate insects that float.
Oh, I see. It's supposed to
Wet
be like
flies.
an insect.
Right. It imitates an insect. Right?
What's that? What's that?
This is a patch of elk hair.
Okay. So you're going to tell me that originally people, when they went fishing a long way back, they didn't go buy all these little packages.
Right. They just, shot it.
Right. And then they remembered to keep pieces of it for their fishing.
Right. You want all these little hairs to be even. They have tools to do all these things. It's called a hair stacker. It stacks the hair.
A hair stacker?
Yeah, all these ridiculous little toys.
And you put it in there to get all the hair the same height?
Yeah, it evens it out. And you pull it out.
I'll believe you if you say so. That just evened the hair out.
And then you measure it up to where you want it. You tie it
This
on.
is really fascinating. I've never seen this. I really haven't. And people buy them already made, though, right?
Yeah, they can get expensive, though, like, $2 or $3 for...
Oh, and you never see them again after they get...
Yeah.
Is that it?
So I'll sit down for a day and make like 100 of these things.
Really? Make
for
100?
a season, yeah, if I'm patient,
For that
Usually
season?
I'll just tie 10 or something.
And you pack them away in little plastic bags and keep them
Boxes, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Little plastic boxes and keep them with you in those vests that have all the pockets.
Right.
That's what all those pockets are
So like
for.
I said, this is a dry fly.
Wow, I don't
floats on the
know.
surface.
That's fantastic.
The little feathers we put underneath help it float on the surface. And deer and elk hair is hollow, so it helps.
It's float on the surface.
Right.
So it looks like a little insect.
Yeah.
And that's what it's supposed to look like, a little insect with a hook on it.
They get caught in the rug and then
Now, these hooks come in different sizes? These hooks
I've got various size hooks.
for trout, what kind of hooks do you use?
Oh, all kinds. I mean, that's a size, they number them, that's size 14, and then it goes up and down from there. These are size 10 hooks.
So for
These are longer
trout,
hooks,
do all the 70 different type of trout use all different types of...
No.
No?
They're all pretty much the same, you know.
Using what type of
They
flies?
all have the same habits. They eat, you know,
Ties.
most of them eat...
Flies.
Yeah, most of them eat dry flies in the spring and summer when these things are hatching from their larval stage. And then other times they eat bigger things. I mean, I'll tie one quick.
Okay, can you tie a bigger one?
Yeah, that imitates like a leech or a minnow. I mean, they eat all kinds of things.
So you're faking them out by making these things that look like what they aren't?
Right.
Boy. And then...
I mean, you could use bait or something also, which is perfectly fine. But, you know, there's purists and people who like to they think it's a more noble pastime to try to catch them with an artificial, you know, as opposed to
it's pretty fascinating. I see why so many people do this.
yeah.
Some people just expert tie flyer and they don't fish as much?
Yeah.
They just do it for other people?
There's people who are into it for the decorative purposes. Victorian times in Britain, the salmon fly was, you know, they made these big elaborate salmon flies out of feathers from rare birds from all around the world.
Yeah, I heard all about this. They use all these birds.
They didn't necessarily use the flies, but they were decorative.
At the same time, they were doing all those fancy hats for women and decorative clothing.
Right. It's just.
I hear the conservation movement came along and told them to stop. They were ruining the bird.
They raise a lot of the animals that they use.
I see.
For fly tying now, fly tying.
You'd like the Birdcraft Museum, thinking.
In Fairfield.
This is a wonderful thing that holds everything so that you can...
yeah, keep your hands free. There was a time when...
from a rooster, isn't it?
Yeah, same deal.
This is a hackle.
There was a time when people would tie flies just using their hands, you know.
Until someone figured out you can put it in a vise and hold it for you?
Yeah, it makes a little more sense to do it that way.
I could see myself trying to do this without having something to hold it.
I try to keep things organized, too. You know, you put them in bags, label them. This is this, this is that.
Sure.
'Cause
now, when you're on the stream, you have all this with you. How do you have all this mobile with you? You have the camera, you have a pen. You don't have, do you have a pen and paper, camera?
Sometimes, yeah. A lot of times.
Binoculars?
So, no, I usually don't bring binoculars.
Something that if you say you're going to be out all day?
Yeah, I'll bring a lunch or just stop at a general store. You know,
so in your vest, though, you have these ties?
You usually make the flies before you go.
Flies?
Yeah, you make the flies before you go.
Sure, but I mean, you have them all with you? Everything's on your...
in boxes, in your vest. And sometimes I bring materials with me, you know, because
yes.
if you're fishing and you want to imitate something coming off...
I wonder why you're such a scientific fisherman, because the more you know about this...
You have to know about insects and insect life.
And when the insects hatch, when they hatch.
Right. And they're very, you know, they're on a schedule. I mean,
like
every year
in
the
nature.
Hendrickson fly comes out in, you know, April, on a certain date, almost to the day.
I was going to say, doesn't the weather affect that?
It does. It's usually water temperature and things, mostly. But
what do you use for reference for all these things? Water temperature, I mean, almanacs are the things that are more sophisticated than that give you water temperature if you're traveling to a stream.
Well, what temperature they hatch at?
Or what day you want to be there.
Yeah, there's charts and things like that that help the traveling angler. But, you know, it's kind of quick and sloppy.
Yeah, but it's nice. I mean, we're getting the idea.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm getting the idea.
So it's kind of a buggy thing, you know, like a leech or something.
A buggy thing.
And they eat these things. This is called a woolly bugger.
Now, the whole thing with the fishing pole and the line, that's another specialization to this.
The fly fishing?
Yes,
yeah,
we didn't talk about that.
There's a lot of parts
to fishing
it.
pole.
The casting is something you need to develop. It's just a skill.
And the line that you throw, I mean, I'm sure you don't call it throwing, but the line that you put
casting, right.
cast out. Okay, all of that's a whole other thing you have to know about.
Right. And you can learn a lot from books.
Are there certain times of day better for fishing than others? Is it weather temperature
Some people
related?
will tell you that the evening's better, the mornings are better. But I like fishing in bright sun just because It's beautiful to be outside.
The experience.
But a lot of insects hatch at the warmest times of day. Well, not always, but at least in the spring when the
What do you
when the
do to
water warms
protect
up.
yourself from standing in water all the time?
You wear waders.
I mean, besides that.
Neoprene. Oh, well, if it's
Oh,
cold, you mean? Or,
neoprene.
yeah, I just dress up like you would for skiing or something.
But you're in a very wet place, even if you're wearing neoprene, and for hours, you're telling me you stand out sometimes all day.
Neoprene's, it
Does
really
it?
works, yeah.
Keeps you
You'd be
warm?
surprised, yeah. And then the summer when it's warm, I don't wear waders. I just walk in wet sometimes.
Walk in wet in sneakers?
Yeah.
So what about other little things that are in the water that might bother you, like bites or things
No,
you might...
in cold water streams, there's not much that'll bother you. I mean, a crayfish might come up and nip you.
No, I was more thinking of insects. So you're not really putting yourself, there's not a lot of
In danger?
disadvantages to doing this?
No. I've
You know,
never,
occupational
I've never had a bad
hazard.
experience.
Oh,
I mean, in
great.
Alaska, you might run across a bear or something, but in
Nuh-uh.
Connecticut, there's not much that'll bother you. You could fall
Occupational
in. I
hazard.
mean, don't get me wrong. You can, if you're in a stream and you fall with your waders on, they can fill up with water, and you
But
can
I've
be
heard
taken down.
about that
Yeah,
happening
people
on
have drowned
occasion.
before. Yeah, because the air gets trapped in the bottom, and when the water starts coming in, you turn over, and
Wow, I understand.
the waders are, you
Do you do this fly fishing by yourself, or do you sometimes go with other people? Is it something that people like to go off on their own and don't?
It's a you go along with a friend, and at the same time, you can drive to a stream with a friend, and then you split up in your own direction.
Okay, so it's a solo.
Yeah, but there's companionship at the same time. There's a solitary aspect, and then you come back to the same spot.
Right, and then you
started
compare
in.
notes and talk
Yeah.
about your whole day.
Yeah.
Well, it's absolutely
a great
fascinating, I'll
experience.
tell you. I mean, I don't know how many people who haven't tied flies understand that, you have the fun of collecting all these threads and deer fur and putting it all together, these hackles, and then when you see birds outside, you just know about all those feathers.
Right.
You know what you could do with them, too. This is great. Boy.
Well, we can go out to the stream sometime.
Yeah, you and I guess got to find a pair of waders that'll fit. My whole body will fit in.
Probably have some downstairs.
Well, I hope we were able to show everybody a little bit about what tying flies and what James Prosek is all about, because this guy is very complicated, actually, in a funny way, because you're such a simple, kind of gentle soul. You're also quite complicated, and your mind works in terms of writing words, poetry, too, I wouldn't doubt.
Right.
And lots of drawing and painting, and tying flies, which in itself is an art form, and then the actual fishing, which we didn't get to do on this wintry day today, but we'll try to get out there with him sometime in the spring, and putting this first book together, which is going to be quite an honor at age 20, and going to Yale at the same time. That's a lot. You're doing a lot. Thanks for taking the time with us today. It's
Yeah, thanks for coming
fascinating,
by.
James.